Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something truly wild. I'm talking about an absolute anomaly of a book. It's an 1895 set sci-fi adventure novel called The Empire of Ice. Now, this is a story that desperately attempts to blend the meticulous, hard science of Jules Verne, the speculative terror of H.G. Wells, and the untamed pulp heroics of Edgar Rice Burroughs. But instead of getting a polished literary pastiche, we end up with this accidental masterpiece of chaotic formatting, bewildering narrative choices, and just unapologetic charm. We've had 3 different critics, Claude, Gemini, and Grok, audit this novel, and honestly, their findings are absolutely incredible.
Okay, let's dive into this because what you're looking at right now is not some leaked private chat or a late-night email. No, this exact text is published on page 1 of the novel, right before the story actually begins. We are talking about a book that literally published the midnight communications of its own creators right alongside the narrative. It's just wild. And honestly, that bizarre opening perfectly sets the stage for the massive cognitive dissonance at the heart of this book. Our reviewer Gemini really hit the nail on the head here. The premise promises this visceral, Burroughs-esque savage romance and cosmic horror, right? But the reality that the authors actually delivered is something else entirely. Instead of fighting giant albino apes or descending into madness, readers find themselves trapped in this intensely polite, administrative loop of the Royal Geographic Society. I mean, it literally comes complete with detailed outfitting catalogs.
Section 1, the 2 a.m. meta-disaster. Which brings us to our first major critique from reviewer Claude, focusing on the unhinged textual meltdown that hits before the story even really gets off the ground. The authors literally publish their own confused midnight scaffolding. The final text contains an author's note asking if a mistake was made about which book in a sequence they were even writing, complete with a multiple choice breakdown of what the word continue means. And look, this isn't some clever postmodern literary device. As Claude accurately points out, this is just what publishing at speed looks like with the lights left on.
It's like watching the chronological decay of a page in real time. Look at line 20. The narrator names a character Sir Ernest Shackleton, realizes the historical error, and then corrects it in scene to Dr. Ernest Thornton. Just a few lines later, another character literally stops speaking, shakes his head, and says, "I apologize, let me begin again." The in-universe characters are actually apologizing for the real-world writer's confusion. They're essentially covering for the authors so the writer can find their footing in the draft. It's fascinating. Reviewer Gemini actually did a full archival audit of these narrative anomalies, and the list is just staggering. I mean, we've got the expedition leader completely changing his name and department every 3 chapters, resulting in what Gemini calls a severe case of narrative amnesia. We have characters who literally can't look at a piece of ice without delivering a 3-page dissertation on tectonic displacement. And, as we're going to see in just a bit, we have ancient mysteries functioning essentially like corporate orientations.
Section 2, a very polite expedition.
So, who's actually on this chaotic journey? Let's take a look at the expedition team itself. Reviewer Grok highlights a hilarious point here. This 1895 expedition roster is conspicuously cast with the diversity instincts of a 2020s streaming prestige drama. You've got a Cambridge-trained Nigerian meteorologist, a Chinese-British navigator, and a Swedish ice master, all working together in perfect, egalitarian harmony. It's incredibly progressive and totally admirable in its intent, but it creates this slightly jarring anachronism. It's like a crew that knows what the modern ethical thing to do is, dropped straight into a Victorian gondola. And, despite having genuinely cool, atmospheric lines like "the ice is alive" from the Ice Master, the actual narrative velocity of this expedition grinds to, maybe 0.02 knots? Why? Simply because these incredibly polite characters refuse to just have a normal conversation. Instead, they constantly deliver fully cited, perfectly mannered guest lectures to one another about the scenery.
Section 3, Thyra, the middle manager.
So let's see what happens when this intensely polite crew finally reaches their destination. They discover this hyper-advanced pre-Ice Age facility. Its guardian is named Thyra, and she has been completely alone beneath the Arctic ice for a staggering 16,000 years, just silently maintaining a planetary defense network for a human species that doesn't even know she exists. That's a massive amount of time in total isolation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complete and utter lack of cosmic terror. You'd think 16,000 years of total isolation would make an entity strange or terrifying. Actually, scratch that, just completely unmoored from reality. Instead, her greeting is literally, "Please, do come in. I've been expecting you." She delivers this massive exposition dump with the exact energy of a highly accommodating docent at the British Museum leading a scheduled tour.
She doesn't act like some mysterious ancient alien at all. She behaves exactly like a corporate middle manager. She shakes their hands, she explains her facility's energy output in late 19th century terms, perfectly tailored for her guests. She sets up a staged performance review matrix for the human race to prove their wisdom. And then, I love this part, she literally sends the explorers home with samples and crystals. It's basically an electromagnetic goodie bag.
And how do our Victorian explorers react to this godlike being handing them infinite clean energy? With the stiffest, most hilariously courteous understatement imaginable. Dr. Wexford simply notes in his log, "I confess this piqued my interest considerably." The cognitive dissonance here is just glorious. It's like Lovecraft tried to write a cosmic horror story, but the ancient beings just wanted to exchange research notes over a nice cup of tea.
Section 4. The Bureaucratic Eclogue.
This unhinged politeness carries us right through to the final act of the novel, where the seams of the book's influences really, truly start to show. Throughout the story, the authors used very competent, researched 1895 science. We're talking rigid aluminum frames, petroleum engines, accurate glaciology terms. But suddenly, the moment they interact with Thyra's facility, the text just casually drops in portals with biological signature recognition systems. We leap straight from Jules Verne to the USS Enterprise. And the Victorian narrator just dutifully writes it down without a single question. So what happens when humanity is handed 16,000-year-old technology that literally changes the fundamental understanding of our planet? Well, the book lazily summarizes the massive, world-altering geopolitical aftermath in a single, hastily written telegram. The authors essentially wrote the fun discovery part, realized they absolutely didn't want to write the complicated political aftermath, and just wrapped the whole shebang up in a 2-page press release.
Section 5. An Accidental Comfort Masterpiece.
So, if the pacing is completely broken, the characters are apologizing for the author's typos, the ancient alien is basically a tour guide, and the epic conclusion is just a telegram, why do all 3 critics actually praise this book? So, the crucial point is that this objectively flawed novel works entirely because of its heart. It is just ridiculously earnest. The prose is so committed to its period accuracy that it practically wears a monocle. But more importantly, it features an authorial decision to take an unknowable ancient thing and just make it entirely kind. It's fueled by that frantic, unedited 2:07 a.m. writing urgency that prioritizes pure enthusiasm over perfection. It truly is the ultimate comfort adventure. Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought. When you step back and look at The Empire of Ice, you really have to wonder, does perfect, meticulous genre execution actually matter when a messy, unhinged draft has this much genuine joy and heart built into it? Think about your own favorite pieces of media. Sometimes the ones we love the most are the most flawed. Publishing the seams, the mistakes, and the impossibly polite 16,000-year-old aliens creates something so much more memorable than a perfectly polished standard adventure. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and hey, perhaps it's time you go track down your own copy of this magnificent literary accident.